Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are back with yet another game of TA Escalation. Between our two favorites, Race, here in the bottom left, the orange core commander, and in the top right, EXE, the red arm commander, who has gone K-bot first. So, I'm not sure what happened to my sound here. Sound is on. Perhaps we're just waiting for things to happen. In any case, guys, this will be my first game casting on the 9.9 series of patches, so I am pretty excited about casting these games. I have not seen any games on this patch so far, so I actually have no idea. Like I know there's a lot of there's new units, there's balance changes, there's some new mechanics. Overall, I'm actually really excited to see all the new changes and find out what is going on in the TA world. In the escalation world, I'm, like I said, very excited. It is kind of weird, though, even though I have the game sound on, I don't hear anything. That's strange. I mean, I have the sound on. I'm sure you guys can hear me messing with the menus, but I don't actually hear sound in the game. So I don't know what's going on there. Okay, well, it is working. Usually you hear like construction sounds and stuff, but maybe we just need to get further into the game. I'm pretty sure the sound's working. So we'll just assume it's going to work. But as I was saying, guys, I'm excited for this new patch. I think it's going to be awesome. I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting changes to talk about and cast. Race has gone for a hyper-economical start here. He has built 3 construction vehicles before he even built his first scout. And, guys, this is a best of 3, I guess, between the two players. EXE said it was a good set. Like I said, it's the first set I've cast on this patch, so don't know exactly what to expect, but I think we will see some pretty epic things. Guys, as I mentioned in my last video, in the comment section, the quality of the last few videos, casts I have uploaded has just been shit. It's been absolute garbage, dumpster fire. So we are going to work on improving the quality of this cast and every cast after this. Let's see. This one will be in 1440p, so hopefully from here on we can cast games in 1440p. Typically I upload them in 1080p, but this should be even higher quality than those. I have completely reloaded my computer from scratch, so I just threw everything out and started over. I was like, yeah, throwing everything out. We're starting fresh, recording it in really the highest quality that we can, and then there's a new method I'm using to actually splice the videos together so that I'm not re-encoding them. The problem was the re-encoding process, so like the actual recording was fine. So when I recorded it, the videos were high quality, but when I would re-encode them to like combine them all together, it would kill the quality of the videos and make it, I mean, I don't want to say it was unwatchable, but it was pretty bad. Anyway, we're trying something new this time. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. If this is higher quality than my last few casts, I definitely don't want you guys to be watching something that's miserable and grainy and low low FPS or low bit rate. We're going to try our best to improve that. But here we have our first skirmish of the game. Weasel versus Pee-wee. This has been a pretty quiet game, I have to say. Both players doing a very kind of defensive economic start. This is on the map Corruption. So this is typically more of like a multiplayer map, like a 3v3 team game. Like you might even be able to do like a 4v4 or 5v5 on this map. You know, like one player could start here, one player could start here. But as it is, you can do 1v1s on this map. It's just a lot to handle for one player. EXC moving down with a team of Pee-wees here in the bottom left. And in the middle, Race pushing forward with some instigators as well. So, guys, let me know in the comments as well. It's always hard for me to tell how high I should keep the game sound. I want to make it engaging and entertaining, but I also don't want to make it to where it hurts your ears to try to listen to the cast. But anyway, this game is still pretty even. Neither player doing too much out of the ordinary yet. Both players still seem to be on one factory. And EXE will be the first player to go air here. Unbelievably, he is just now, I think, taking these two metal extractors. We are, let's see, we are 7.5 minutes in the game, and those two metal extractors and these here have not been taken, so EXE with a very strange kind of build. I mean, EXE with a strange build. And Race defending his base here from a lot of Pee-wee aggression. That's quite a few instigators and, of course, a leveler here. As I mentioned in previous casts, levelers are the riot tank. They do specialize in killing those raiders like Pee-wees. And flashes and any of those kind of fast, high DPS T1 units, the levelers are very good at stopping. But, you know, Race here, he has a, I mean, just looking at the map, you can see he's got a lot more metal coming in. He's got about 40 to EXE's 26. So I'm not sure what EXE's been doing. It just feels like he's been very slow in taking metal spots this game. I mean, this whole top area he hasn't even started to attempt to take. He is building some construction aircraft now, so those will slowly move across the map, I suppose, and perhaps give him some more economic power. But as of now, yeah, he's just been very slow. Perhaps going for more of an aggressive posture with those Pee-wees. But again, a little strange for EXE to wait so long to take the base extractors on his side of the map. And Race now moving in. This is quite a fearsome army here of instigators and levelers. So, yeah. Looking at Race's base, he is working on his first geo, it seems. Geothermals are, I think, an escalation, like 300 power, maybe 350? Let's take a look here. I think EXE, we can... Oh, it doesn't actually tell us how much it gives, but it's either 300 or 350. It's a lot. It's like the equivalent to, I want to say, 12 solar collectors. So we'll say solar collectors, I think, give 25, so 12. It's a lot. It's a lot of power. Of course, they are very volatile, and if they explode, they can kind of take out everything with them. But Yeah, Race moving up here with this squad of instigators and levelers, and I have to say I'm really liking Race's army here a lot better. Instigators in general are pretty good against Peewees, but levelers will just rip them apart. No questions asked. Those riot cannons are designed for those pesky Peewee-like units, and Race also moving in with thuds. Holy cow, I can tell that on this patch the thud range has been buffed. Maybe even the accuracy. Holy cow, what the hell? Look at the range of this. Are you guys seeing this? Or am is this a fever dream? Like, I'm just thinking I'm gonna wake up and dream that I casted this. Like, what the fuck is this range, dude? Check this out. Look at that range. Unbelievable. That's so cool. They really buffed thuds. EXE though, not to take this line down, flying in with a squad of bombers to get some sweet revenge, and he will also fly into Race's backline here. Wow. Okay. How much can these bombers get done? That's always the question. He did take out a few metal extractors. He didn't get this lab or anything. So if he could get this Geo, that would be pretty big. He does take out the Geo, and that does take out the construction vehicle at the Geo. So nice play there, but God, I'm still reeling over these thuds. I mean, that range. I mean, I guess they're not perfectly accurate, but they're accurate enough to where they can kill these light laser towers in seconds. God, that's so crazy. It feels like a completely different unit now. I mean, it's not as though we never saw thuds prior to this patch. It's just it wasn't very common. Like, thuds were, you know, rarely seen. They just kind of felt like inferior, like Rockos most of the time. Like, Rockos just did what thuds did better. But now it feels like they kind of have a different role, because I can tell their range has been improved quite dramatically, and maybe their bullet speed has been slowed, or their accuracy has been nerfed a little bit. So they're probably not as good in combat now. But for the purpose of just sieging their opponent's defenses, like, holy shit, that's insane. That's so impressive, like how effective they are now. That's yeah, I'm just kind of giddy at how cool that was. I really liking that change. That's definitely that definitely gets a thumbs up from me. I feel like that's gonna definitely change the game quite a bit, especially on T1, especially in 1v1s. That 1v1s tend to stay on T1 longer than any other game type. As you add more players, the game does tend to advance or escalate more quickly. I imagine we'll see thuds quite a bit in 1v1s now, where like I said before, you rarely saw them. They just weren't that good. But yeah, MAKs versus Warriors classically has been an MAK favored matchup, because MAKs used to outrange them. I don't know anymore. I know they have changed MAKs. Like, I don't know exactly what they did in this patch. I think they may have nerfed their range or damage or whatever it was, but classically MAKs did win the Warrior matchup because they do kind of outrange the Warriors, or they used to. So you could just kind of kite Warriors forever. Warriors are pretty slow and a bit slow, but certainly harder to kill. They have more health than the MAKs, so it's just not a great matchup for them in a 1v1 situation. And it kind of like, it's just a bad matchup if microed correctly. And Race asking if he wants to go next. Certainly Race is very far ahead at this point. I mean, just looking at the mega map, Race has taken his whole side of the map, and EXE struggling to hold on to these little cloisters, you know, these little sections of his side. It looks like he's got some Mavericks, so he's picking up Mavericks and Atlas transports. Or at least that looked like what he was... Or no, maybe he's just bringing them to the front line. He's bringing his Mavericks to the front line with Atlases, perhaps. But truth be told, I just don't think that's going to be enough. We do have another Maverick up here. And Mavericks, pretty good at T1, or pretty good against T1. Very, very high DPS. One of the highest DPS of any T2 unit in the game. Like, per cost, like DPS for cost, like Mavericks are absolutely insane. Like it's unbelievable how much damage Mavericks put out. Of course, they are kind of squishy, and they have been nerfed since the 9.86 days, back when Mavericks were kind of king of the castle. So, but Race on his own air now, and he was bringing in bombers. And Race's bomber control is also very impressive, but Race just now moving to T2, and so EXE did get to T2 first, but just like looking at the bottom left, like Race is, his economy is massive compared to EXE. Like Race isn't even using all his metal. It doesn't look like he can use all his metal. He probably needs to be spending more resources, or putting more build power on the advanced vehicle plant. That will drain his metal pretty quickly if he focuses it. But he's also having kind of an energy crisis as well. And Race line bombing, and EXE does tap out. So guys, the game wasn't super close, to be honest, but I do have to say, holy crap. The thuds were awesome. I'm really excited. I mean, that was really cool to cast. So yeah, that was the highlight of the game for me. Otherwise, Race was just kind of ahead the whole game. It seemed like EXE was kind of messing around. But we do have 2 more games to cast, and we'll see if EXE wants to get revenge on his rival here. And all right, guys, let's go into game 2. Hello, guys, we are back, and this is game 2 of Race versus EXE. Now, game 1, not super close. It was entertaining at the very least, but EXE kind of sandbagging, if I'm being completely honest. But this game is on a slated map. The slated maps, it was a certain map type. May have been added in like the core contingency. I don't think this map type was in the original game. I definitely think one of the expansions added this. But these were like air maps. These were like maps designed for aerial play. And the original slated maps were like these little islands with, I mean, you can kind of tell, like, the idea is that, like, this is the top of a mountain. So this is, like, clouds, right? So there was these maps that were, just, this whole tile set, or this whole, like, biome, I guess you could call it, type of map, was that, like, most of them were designed so that you had these little islands in the sky. So there wasn't water, like it was kind of almost like a naval map, except there was no water. So it was designed so that you would actually fly units, to the other islands using air transports and whatever. So there's a lot of airplanes and bombers and Berthas and nukes. And I remember playing these maps when I was a kid with my brothers. I had stepbrothers, and my dad would play with me, and these maps were just so silly because they were so campy. I mean, like, you couldn't really rush your opponent. You couldn't really, And then in original TA, like you could only transport one unit at a time. It wasn't like Escalation or any of these other mods where you can put like a bunch of units in an air transport now. Like you could just do one unit at a time. It was very time consuming. So the games just kind of turned into this campy clown fiesta. It was a lot of fun. And this map is called Slated Hatred. So in this case, he's more just the map creator is more just using the which I think is Herald. I think this is a Herald map, or not a Herald. Who am I thinking? Cyberdisk. What does he call himself? Shoot. Drawing a blank. Dirty Harry. I think this is a Dirty Harry map. So, anyway. Point is, this tile set brings back memories for me. Very, very cool. Even though this is basically just a land map. But still, the tile set is very cool. And this game, EXE, going vehicle first. I've always preferred vehicle first in every like TA game. I don't know why. I just feel like vehicles are more efficient, like in terms of cost effectiveness. Like they're usually faster at max speed, and they have more health and they do more damage. But like I guess they are more expensive for that. So like maybe that's not true. I've always just preferred vehicles. I don't know why. It just maybe fits my playstyle more. Like K-bots are good sometimes, like especially on a map with a lot of like terrain obstacles. But I always like when I see players go vehicle first because it's really interesting. Now once you get to T2, it kind of changes, right? Because T2 K-bots are crazy, absolutely crazy, especially for ARM. I feel like T2 K-bots give you a lot of options that you don't get on vehicles. And so that's really interesting. Like you might even be able to make the argument that like T2 K-bots are stronger than T2 vehicles. Like especially for ARM. Because you just get so many interesting things that you can do. But anyway, let's get into the game here. Race moving forward here with some Weasel harassment. Both players going core, as I mentioned. And this is very annoying. Kind of a three-pronged attack here. But EXE does have a lot of pulverizers. And as we know, pulverizers aren't very strong. In general, against ground, they have like a very nerfed. They're an anti-air structure, but so they only do like a fraction of their damage against ground. But against scouts in particular, they're strong because scouts don't have a lot of health anyway. So EXE with a good defense there. And Race already moving, already building his second vehicle plant. So he's totally committing to vehicles. Excuse me, guys. He's totally committing to vehicles in this game. And you do sometimes see players building the opposite lab of what they build at the start. So like if a player starts vehicle, they might go K-bot second or vice versa. Sometimes you can also go air. Obviously, you can go air second as well. Or you could just go straight advance second, but that's a little more risky in a 1v1 because then you'll... Like, teching to T2 is very expensive. And so you do have a period there where you will fall behind. And I also believe that in this patch, in the 9.9 series patches, I think Wotan made it more expensive to get to T2 now. So, like, it's even more of a risk to try to rush T2 in a 1v1. But certainly I've had some games where if a player does rush T2 and you can't punish them quickly enough, they will get ahead because T2 is so much stronger than T1 in escalation. I have heard actual players complaining about that because I guess in other mods like in Pro TA, I don't know. I mean, in Pro TA there are only two tech tiers, right? And so in escalation you have up to T4, but basically in Pro TA you only have two techs, two tiers of technology. Here we go, escalation, or excuse me, EXE moving in, taking out this extractor. And in the north there, Race also getting some harassment done. But Race just struggling to use his metal here, and I think one of the big reasons might be that he might not have enough power to run 3 factories plus keep all this construction going. He's only on 330 power, and that's you do need a lot of power to run 3 vehicle plants simultaneously. So EXE seems to be using his metal better. He's been using all of his metal this whole game, and that is going to give him an advantage, I think, moving forward, just because, you know, the player that can use their resources more efficiently and not float or waste resources will usually have an advantage. It is harder said than done, and as I said, Race now struggling because he's got more output than his energy power grid can handle. So he's now working on those solar collectors to get that back online. But anyway, what was I rambling on about prior to this? Here we go, EXE now moving down the east side of the map with some more weasels, and this is enough weasels to take out that construction vehicle. More than enough, and that's construction vehicle in quite a bit of trouble. It always feels really bad to lose construction vehicles to frickin' scouts. That should never happen, because all it does take is like this one instigator can take out all those weasels. But EXE did catch him out, and EXE with kind of a dominant performance this game. He is 11 metal ahead at this point. And now moving down with a squad of instigators. And continuing this weasel harassment, taking out a radar, very annoying. That will make it harder for Race to actually respond to what's going on here. But yeah, EXE moving down the middle. Quite a few instigators, and Race moving his commander forward. He's now, like I said, on 3 vehicle plants. And EXE with about 10 instigators here. Moving into light laser towers, and a couple instigators as well. So now EXE actually struggling to use his metal. A bit surprising. Typically EXE is pretty good about staying on top of his economy. There is a fight here in the middle. Mostly groups of instigators clashing, and another fight here at the top left. So Race getting a little harassment done. He does take out a couple mechs there, and will probably get this construction vehicle, which would be a nice pickup. These 3 instigators will probably run into a leveler, maybe. Yeah, and levelers do eat those instigators for breakfast, so nice job there. But EXE continuing the harassment and pushing down with instigators from all sides. He's got kind of a 3-pronged attack. Instigators from the middle, instigators from the east, and instigators from the south. And he does have pretty good defense here. What in God's green earth is this? The Vandal. So the Vandal, I guess, is the T1 artillery vehicle. It will shoot these volleys of shells at long range. But I'm a little curious as to why Race is building these now. These like the Thuds are more of an anti structure unit. They're not too great in combat unless your opponent's just keeping their units in one place, like EXE was there. But yeah, EXE also moving down with his instigator at the bottom, and these vandals will be almost useless in combat. As I said before, they're more designed to take out defensive lines, so they would be useful like in that situation, or maybe against this line of LLTs. The vandals could yeah, so this would be a good situation, but he wants to keep him out of range of those LLTs. Problem is he doesn't have a radar. He can't see what's happening here. He needs something to give him line of sight, so he can hit those light laser towers from max range. And he may be ground firing here. I don't think those vandals can actually see. So yeah, I think he is probably ground firing. So, as we do see, the vandals are very strong against the static defenses, because their DPS is pretty nice. Their bullets are just very slow. And like I said, against any kind of moving unit, they will be almost useless. So these levelers could just tear them apart once they get into range. And EXE just has more of the map here, and you can kind of see EXE's kind of taking his tendrils and expanding them or extending them all across the landscape. And EXE, these 4 light laser towers in the middle, also very annoying. So Race is by no means out. However, he's still building units. He has built his first K-Bot lab and is now building storms. And storms will actually be pretty good against levelers. They can outrange them. If they can keep them at a distance, storms should be a pretty good counter to leveler spam, because they can kind of kite them to death. And this is a pretty open, flat map, so there won't be too many obstructions blocking the storm's volleys against the levelers. But yeah, guys, this is a new unit, the Vandal. It is very cool to watch in action. I guess it's kind of like the vehicle equivalent to the Thud. But as you can see, almost useless in direct combat with other tanks. And Race now forced to retreat these, but might be too late. Those instigators are on top of them, and the Vandals really don't have much of a way to defend themselves. But Race, as I say that, moving his own raiding force up to the top right of the map, no doubt looking for some juicy targets. And what is EXE up to back at his base? Right now it looks like he's just on the mass production game plan. Mass producing mostly instigators right now. In the past he was mass producing levelers. And but yeah, mostly instigators. It might benefit him to throw some raiders into the mix. Raiders are pretty good, especially once you start getting extra metal. Raiders are more expensive than instigators, but quite a bit stronger in terms of HP, and they have a bit of an AoE attack. They're pretty good against levelers. They're a nice complement to instigator armies. So if we could get some raiders in the mix here, I think EXE's army would definitely benefit from that. Or he could just go T2 as well to use that extra metal. But either way, EXE feels like he's in control of this game. Certainly, Race doing what he can, but EXE is in a bit of a dominant position here. And ooh, is he going to get this construction vehicle? That would be pretty nasty. He does end up getting that. And Race moving straight down the middle of EXE's base. But that might be a little ill-advised. EXE has plenty of defense here with these instigators. Stop that, and also building a riot gun on top of his power plant. He is now moving to T2. So things are looking kind of bad for Race. EXE already in his base. On multiple fronts, he's got instigators coming down the right side. He's got instigators at the south, attacking the solar collector farm. He's got instigators at the front. And he's just kind of got instigators everywhere. And Race now building some MAKs. MAKs, pretty good counter to instigators. They are quite effective if you have enough MAKs. They can handle instigators very well, but they have to be in range. They're kind of slow, and instigators are fast. So yeah, these MAKs will need to be in range, and yeah, at this point, Race in trouble. His economy has been kind of decimated here. He's on about half the metal production that EXE is, and struggling just to maintain his base and keep EXE out. EXE just has so much stuff. And Race building mines here. Got a mine layer up here at the front. But again, I just don't think it's going to be enough, because EXE is now on T2 and building Reapers. And as I mentioned in previous casts, the Reaper, the heavy riot tank, absolutely decimates any kind of T1 threat. They are just kind of the bane of T1 units. If they can get in range, with their heavy riot cannons, they just shred through T1 units as if they were made of butter or paper, or choose your analogy. But yeah, Race realizing that this game is over, and I think the moment he saw that EXE was on T2, he tapped out. Because I mean, he was already struggling on T1, and Race was nowhere near T2. So, like, in escalation, as I mentioned in the previous game, once your opponent gets to T2, especially in a 1v1, the power jump there is pretty big. It's a pretty big power differential. So if you're ahead of them in the game, like if you're winning and they get to T2, it's not over yet, right? Because like you could still win on T1 depending on how far ahead you are. Like you could snipe their commander, or you could just economically cripple them to the point that T2 doesn't even matter. But if your opponent is winning and they get to T2, like that's pretty bad, because now not only do they have like an economic advantage over you, but now their technology is superior as well. So like it's very hard to come back from that. And Race was already way behind, and once he saw that EXE was on T2, he taps out. So that was an interesting game, but both games like very one-sided in a way. The first game, Race was pretty far ahead the whole game, and in the second game, it felt like EXE was pretty far ahead. But I do know that this game 3 is much closer and a much longer game. So guys, the game we're about to cast will be the decider between these two. I think this is going to be a much more epic, later kind of macro brawl type match. We may even get to see T3. So yeah, stay tuned, guys, and I will see you in the next game. Welcome back, guys. This is game 3 of EXE versus Race in this best of 3 series. Now, I don't I don't think I'm casting these in the order that they were played. It doesn't really matter too much. This is just a friendly series. It's not anything serious or not like any kind of tournament games. Though, speaking of tournament games, it would be really cool to have another escalation tournament. I don't think we've had an escalation tournament for certainly since last year. Feels like it's been at least a year, maybe a little less than a year. But guys, it's been a while. If any of you on here are part of the TA Escalation Discord, I do encourage you to harass Wotan. Let your desires be known that we want another escalation tournament in the near future. That would be a lot of fun to cast, and it would be tons of games for you guys. So the last time I casted the whole tournament, it was like, I don't know how many games I casted. It was a lot. It was like probably 20. At least 20 games, maybe more than that. It was a lot of games, guys. And so yeah, if I casted a tournament, it would be a lot of games. Be really cool to watch. Really interesting to see what the new strategies are in the 9.9 series of patches, what the new metagame is. Certainly in the last two games we've seen in this series, there was already some pretty cool units that had either been changed or added to the game. So yeah, harass. But that is my request to you. Harass Wotan. Force him to give us another escalation tournament. We need to see who's the best. Now, last time Harold did win. It was Harold versus Combat Disc in the finals. I said Cyber Disc. In the last game, I said Cyber Disc, and Cyber Disc is actually, you can Google it. It's a I've been playing XCOM a lot, so I love the XCOM series of games. Like those games, I'm talking about the reboot. I've never played the original games that came out like 30 years ago. I'm talking about the reboot, the Firaxis, XCOM Enemy Unknown, and then XCOM Enemy Within, and then XCOM 2 and War of the Chosen. Guys, I love those games. I love the mods people make for those games. Those are like the best turn-based strategy like you will ever have. And I actually have videos on this channel. They're unlisted, but that I share with friends of me playing those games. Like even videos I've uploaded within like the past week. But anyway, there's a unit in XCOM Enemy Within called the Cyber Disc. And it's like this floating disc that transforms. It's almost like a transformer. It flies around as a disc, but then it transforms into like this massive, I don't know, floating robot of death that can just kill your soldiers in one hit and throw and lob grenades at you. And just Google Cyber Disc. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing. But yeah, that's what I was thinking of when I was trying to remember Combat Disc's name. I was thinking of the Cyber Disc from XCOM. But anyways, guys, let's get into this game. This is a bigger map, Artillery Hills. We have seen some really epic games on this map in particular because actually I don't know if it was this map specifically, but this map template there's like a map very similar to this. I can't remember what it's called, but there's actually, instead of these two kind of plateaus, there's just one in the middle, and then whichever player or team controls the plateau in the middle with all the metal usually has an advantage. So you can kind of tell on this map that this is more of a macro, like a longer game type map, because there is so much metal just spread out all over the terrain. But of course it is difficult to defend this much surface area. That is so much to defend. And EXE already showing us that with this very annoying one Jeffy moving across the map and getting as much harassment done as it can. But yeah, Race already powering up on 2 vehicle plants, and EXE working on his 2nd vehicle plant now. So one thing that's interesting about this map is that metal isn't a problem really at all. In fact, you're going to struggle to use your metal. EXE already with several defenders up here. And I didn't mention at the start, but EXE does go ARM and Race does go core, so that'll be interesting. Because this is going to be a longer game, I would like to see both ARM and core technology, because as they get to the higher tiers of tech, we will probably see some things we've never seen before, or at least I've never seen before. So it would be nice to see both sides doing that. And Race building a K-Bot lab here in the right on the top of that plateau. So kind of an aggressive posturing for that K-Bot lab. Very interesting. But anyways, as I was saying, on this map, because metal's not a problem, what becomes a problem is energy. So like you've kind of got to keep up with your energy production with your metal income, and that can be really tough because you've got to have like multiple construction vehicles building solar collectors, as we see here. EXE with 2 construction vehicles just pumping out solar collectors. You've got to keep that energy income at the level of your metal. And Race building a couple light laser towers up on this ridge here, but EXE does have enough flashes, more than enough, to take that out. But wow, Race will get away with this construction vehicle, which is arguably the most important piece of that base, because as soon as EXE leaves, he can just literally drive this construction vehicle right back up the hill and rebuild it all pretty quickly. So Race going to try to hide this construction vehicle. Of course, EXE has no radar in this area, so he doesn't know exactly where that is. He's looking for it. You can tell he's looking for it. He's looking for that construction vehicle. And Race bringing down instigators to stop these flashes before they can find the construction vehicle. And but in the meantime, EXE with another group of flashes, about 20 or more, here in the top left. EXE has really powered up on sheer production. He's got at least 3 vehicle plants from the looks of it. And oh my god, this geothermal power plant, it's vulnerable. Can EXE get it in time before it finishes its upgrade? No, it doesn't look like it. It's kind of a replayer bug, but this geo power plant is already finished. In the middle, though, EXE did take out that K-Bot lab, so it's a little annoying, but not too big of a deal. The K-Bot lab can be rebuilt. Like I said, with the amount of metal that both players have access to, losing a single K-Bot lab on this map isn't a huge deal, because you can just rebuild it pretty quickly. And but guys, there's action everywhere. It's going to be hard to follow everything. I'll probably zoom out sometimes just so you can see at a glance sort of what's happening. EXE with a group of stumpies, 8 here. And as I was saying in the last game, of course I was talking about raiders, but that's just the core equivalent. The medium tank. Once you start, if you're on T1 and you start having a lot of extra metal, many times the players will transition to these stumpies and raiders, because they're kind of it's almost like the tier 1.5 unit. They're more expensive than, say, flashes and instigators, but they're also quite a bit tougher. And they're a lot hardier as well. They're really good against static defenses, because they can take a lot more punishment, and their bullets shoot in an arc, so they will the bullets will arc over Dragon's Teeth. And yeah, of course I don't know how much of these will get done. We'll have to see. They do take out at least a few metal extractors, but Race does have his commander here, and he can just degun these if he has the energy, which I believe he does. But at the bottom left, there is some combat as well, a lot of javelins. And EXE mixing some Samsons in here as well, perhaps predicting that Race will eventually transition to airplay. And when he does, those Samsons will come in very useful. But Race has a lot of light laser towers. Like, there was at least 3 or 4 there, and he's building more here. The top right, we still have a few Stumpies that survived that engagement. And at the bottom, Race doing his own harassment, but it doesn't seem like he'll get too much accomplished. He did maybe take out a construction vehicle here. But that one construction vehicle that EXE could not find earlier is now built all of these light laser towers, some defenders, some metal extractors, and also this advanced vehicle plant. So you can see how much this one construction vehicle that didn't get killed by EXE has accomplished on its own. That's why when I say, when I'm casting a game and I'm saying every construction vehicle that's killed early on is huge, this is why. Like, look how much one construction vehicle can do in just a period of a few minutes. Like, one construction vehicle can absolutely change this game. Like, this advanced vehicle plant might be the turning point or what tips the balance in Race's favor so that he wins the game, because EXE couldn't find this one construction vehicle early, like when he was doing that flash raid. But anyway, EXE on T2 now, and he's got Panthers. And wow, it is loud. Maybe I'll turn it down just a little bit. I don't want it to be so loud that hurts your ears or anything. I do want it to be engaging, but there is a lot of stuff going on here. And yeah, Panthers are very strong in escalation. Of course, Panthers were pretty strong in OTA as well. It was one of the few T2 units that was actually pretty decent in OTA. In OTA, typically, many T2 units weren't really worth building. A lot of times you'd go T2 more for the economic advantage, like getting the Moho extractors and fusions and such. But Panthers were always pretty good. And they continue to be good in escalation as well. Certainly Panthers are good, especially on early T2. They're pretty good against T1 units because they're, they have a decent amount of health, they're fast, and their lightning gun is a pretty short cooldown, so they do tend to outgun most T1 threats, and they also have this... They still do retain their anti-air missile, though. Against ground, it's pretty nerfed, but I didn't think Panthers could shoot at ground in escalation. I thought that their anti-air missile could only shoot air. But that might have changed in the 9.9 series. It might be that now Panthers can shoot ground with their anti-air. Or maybe they could have always done it, I just didn't think so. But I'm pretty sure that changed in 9.9. So Panthers may have gotten buffed. And Bulldogs are an interesting unit. Bulldogs basically arms main battle tank once you get to T2. Very well-rounded, extremely well-rounded unit there. And there's action happening all over the map. It's hard to actually keep up with it. EXE moving north with another raiding force of Panthers, flashes, and Stumpies. The thing is, as long as EXE has Panthers in here, he's going to keep winning all these engagements, because Panthers are just stronger than Instigator spam. But Race also doing a bit of his own counterattack here at the bottom left. Here's kind of where you can see the power of Stumpies. Stumpies have a small AoE, and a lot of time in these in the tinier engagements, that AoE doesn't come into play. But when there's this many instigators all clumped together, the Stumpy's AoE does start to make a difference. Like the AoE does come into play because there's so many tightly packed units that it will actually influence the outcome of the fight. This Geo power plant that survived earlier, now pumping out damage. The Geo power plant with the riot cannon. So, guys, this is a pretty epic game. There's so much action happening all over the battlefield, and but at the moment, EXE does seem like he's ahead because he's mixing T2 into his armies, and that is certainly giving him the edge in these battles, simply because T2 pretty strong. But as I was saying earlier, the Bulldogs. Very well-rounded tank. They kind of exist somewhere between like the Reaper and the Goliath for core. So they're kind of fast. They're fast like the Reaper, and they have a higher firing speed. They do fire pretty quickly. They've got the double cannons. But they also hit in a pretty big AoE like the Goliath, and they have a lot of health like the Goliath. So they're just, the Bulldog is just very well rounded. The weakness of the Bulldog really is that they can get surrounded. Like if there's enough T1 units, they're not super accurate when things get on top of them. So it's not like the Reaper. The Reaper's riot cannons are like ultra accurate. So it's hard to swarm them. So the Bulldogs can kind of be swarmed by T1 units, but the way EXE is using them here is perfect. Because he's supporting them with T1 units, which means it's harder to just kind of overwhelm them with spam. And in the meantime, Race also bringing down his own harassment with these Reapers, but Bulldogs are just stronger than Reapers. I mean, that's... Bulldogs will just generally beat Reapers in a fight. And, yeah, EXE moving through the north of Race's base here with this combination of Stumpies and Bulldogs. And he is running out there, but you can kind of see here, right? Like when the Bulldogs get surrounded by T1, they just kind of get overwhelmed. They're not super accurate when units are on top of them. That is one weakness of the unit. But, holy shit, that's so many explosions, bro! Oh, I love Bulldogs. I love seeing this many. It's like, how many is this? Like a dozen? 15 or 20? It's hard to even say. It's so many Bulldogs. Like, Bulldogs are just so scary. Like, especially once you have an army of them. Feels unstoppable, but I guess Goliaths are pretty similar in that way too. Goliaths, once you have enough of them, are quite scary, but Goliaths are even more cumbersome and unwieldy than Bulldogs. So Goliaths are even more prone to being kind of swarmed and overwhelmed with just T1 spam, just trash units, you know, because they just... They can't really hit units on top of themselves very well. Like if units kind of get... They almost have like a minimum range that they can't fire at. So Goliaths and Bulldogs are similar in that way, but Goliaths are even worse. So you do want to support Goliaths as well. But, oh my god, this army of EXE is just so fucking crazy. Look at all the explosions, dude. It's like walking into a wall. Oh my goodness, EXE. Fucking what? That's just... Oh my god, Bulldogs are so nasty. It's like, they're just so good. Like, they're just... Like, they hit this perfect balance between damage and firing rate. and AoE, so they have a pretty big AoE. Oh my god. What do you do? Like, if you're in EXE's position, like, you just probably you're sweating right now. You're wiping your brow because it's like, whoa, what do you do against this many bulldogs? It's that's actually scary. Yeah, one funny thing is about when you have this many bulldogs is they do become vulnerable to their own friendly fire. So that's another reason that bulldogs kind of like are weak against swarms, especially when they're not supported by T1 units or anything. Is that when units start getting on top of them, there'll be a lot of friendly fire. So in trying to take out the threat on top of a friendly bulldog, all the other units will begin kind of destroying, or like team firing their friend. But oh, here we go, EXE deciding this advanced vehicle plant is no longer allowed to be in this game. He's just gonna bomb this base. So yeah, EXE deciding that base is too good for this world, and takes it out and decides no more base there. And he also has an Orion here, and holy crap, you can just see these Orions are very effective defense. Another wave of combat here in the top left. But, you know, I have to say, despite all of the impressive spectacles that we've seen on EXE's part, Race actually seems to have more of the map somehow. I don't even know how he's done this. My god, look at all this defense he's got. Oh, holy crap. Well, we're gonna have to go back to that. Look at all this. He's got like 4 gat guns, 5, 1 here, and he's just, Race is just, he's repelling. I mean, he's taking everything that EXE can throw at him, and somehow holding on, and not only holding on, but also managing to secure this ground very impressively. I mean, it's just going to be tough to break through here, like with that many heavy laser towers and pulverizers. Like, it's legitimately going to be difficult. And he's also rebuilding this advanced vehicle plant that was destroyed. He's still got these 2 immolators. Immolator's the core T2 flamethrower defense. Kind of an anti-swarm defense. They don't have a huge range, but they have a lot of health. And yeah, so Race, earlier it seemed like he thought he was dead, or he was really, he felt as though he was behind, but now Race is kind of ahead. His metal production seems a little higher, at least for a second it looked like it. Maybe a little higher, not too much, but just looking at the map, it does feel like Race has more surface area. And certainly he's defending better. Like, his defensive line here is super impressive. You know, compared to EXE, EXE has almost no defense. He has some Orions here, but like this whole line is practically undefended, and he's building some Sentinels now, but Race certainly with a better defensive position there. And EXE seems to be on the offense, is the best defense game plan. Certainly if you keep your opponent busy on their side of the map, then maybe they'll never have a chance to attack you. You don't have to build defense. But Race now building Goliaths, but I don't think it will be enough. This advanced vehicle plant will die again, and that whole part of the map. Scorched Earth. Speaking of Scorched Earth, EXE doing another bombing run, and let's slow it down. This bomber action is so quick that I often want to slow the game down to try to catch all the minutia of the player's bombing skills and strategy. EXE seems to be making like a line. He's kind of creeping forward here with plasma batteries. Not sure why. Don't know if that's the most effective defense. I mean, but yeah, EXE just using these bombers defensively, it seems. I'm not really sure what he wants to do with those. Yeah, he might just be using these bombers for defense. Race has quite a few pulverizers up here, about 10 or 12. And he also has some crashers in his army, so Race, he's got some decent anti-air. And Reaper's continuing to move down into EXE's base and gets some small harassment done, but doesn't seem like it would be too effective. But yeah, again, these Guardians are somewhat suspect. I'm just not really sure what EXE was trying there. They weren't positioned very well. If he had put the Guardians behind the defenses, behind the Sentinels and such, might have been better. But putting Guardians in the fort like that, usually not a good idea. But okay. EXE is on now 2 tactical nukes, 2 repulsors, and that should give him some breathing room once those come online. Kind of nuke the incoming forces of Race's armies, or even his defense. He could probably nuke these defenses with those repulsors, take out this massive defensive line and make it easier for his troops to move through. But yeah, EXE now moving forward with his contingent of bombers, and Race does have quite a bit of air defense, so I don't think that will get too much accomplished. So while there's a little kind of lull in the battle, there's really not. I mean, the battle is just ongoing, but let's just look at the players' bases here and see if there's anything happening that's out of the ordinary or that might surprise us. EXE is on 4 fusions here, so it's quite a lot of power. And he's working on T3. We did see this earlier, but I just didn't comment on it. But yeah, Ultra Vehicle Plant on the way, so EXE deciding he wants to go T3 vehicles first. And oh my god, Race here in the bottom right has built a little sneaky. He's even built some shrouds, so these are radar jammers, and building a sneaky advanced vehicle plant down here. I don't know what the idea is with that. We'll have to see, but I don't know. EXE has so much defense down here. 5 Orions with Dragon's Teeth, like, I don't know. Race, I guess, could build diplomats. Those would outrange the defense, and I think diplomats in this mod, I don't know if they have cloaking built in, but diplomats might be an option. But yeah, I'm not sure what he's doing with this little bottom right base, aside from just being having a little sneaky covert action going on in his game plan. But let's look at Race's main base here. It's so spread out that it's actually hard to keep track of everything he's building. But here in the meantime, in the middle, another massive battle. I don't know if I agree with EXE sending his army in here, because there's just so much stuff. Dominator's extremely effective. Here we go. There's that repulsor that I had brought up earlier, getting some work done. It does take out quite a bit there. Some metal extractors and defense. So maybe some construction units as well. But yeah, at this point in the game, what happens is core on T2 eventually just gets stronger. Like the Goliaths just become stronger than Bulldogs. Dominators just kind of outrange everything. I guess ARM can build penetrators. We have seen those win games in previous casts, but those require a lot of micro, while core can just kind of build these really beefy tanky units like cans and Goliaths, and Dominators, and really with minimal micro just kind of own their opponents. And I think we've seen that in this battle we just watched. Race's army just absolutely demolished those Bulldogs. Here comes another tactical nuke. We will take out some of Race's army, but not too much. A few Dominators there. And Race now moving down with his own army. And Goliaths are very, very strong against static defense. They're just kind of the dream unit. They do a ton of damage. They have a lot of health. They're bullet arcs. So Goliaths are pretty strong against defensive positions if you have enough. But with these reinforcements coming in on the part of EXE, it will still be tough to break through here. And now with bombers also coming in to assist, you can assume it's going to be near impossible for Race to break through. Bombers continuing to get their harassment done, and EXE desperately attempting to prevent his opponent from spotting this T3 vehicle plant. But Race building some vamps now. He's entered the air, and he does have some air defense in his army as well. A lot of it's already been killed though. And EXE continuing with this amazing bomber micro to keep his opponent at bay, keep his opponent from discovering his T3, and killing if Race were to kill this Ultra Vehicle plant, he might just win the game, but it's a massive investment. And like I was saying just a couple minutes ago, on T2, core does tend to have an advantage. So one way that ARM can overcome that is by moving to T3. So it is very common in ARM vs core 1v1s that ARM will tech to T3 first, because core does tend to have the advantage on T2. And so ARM can advance to T3 to kind of mitigate or eliminate that advantage that core has, because T3 is a whole different battlefield. Like it's a whole different dynamic. Arguably, I mean, maybe you could say core, even on T3, like, once you hit late T3, core once again gets the advantage, but it's kind of like the same thing with T2, like, we're talking late T3, and that's like, you know, that's like late into the game. Oh, crap, all of those energy storages just exploded. So, EXE getting some effective harassment done with just Panthers, really. And we've seen in the past EXE win games with Panthers. Panthers are kind of a strange unit, because they're a unit that you typically see kind of like early on, like in the early phases of T2, because they're pretty strong against T1. But once T2 advances to like a specific point, they kind of fall off, and then they're not as good against other T2 units. But the way EXE uses them is interesting, because he'll kind of bring them back as like a raiding unit later on. A lot of times he surprises his opponent with like 20, 30 Panthers, or sometimes like 50 or 60, like a ridiculous amount. And he's not really trying to win any battles. He just uses them as a raiding unit. He just gets into his opponent's space and does as much damage as possible. But yeah, here in the bottom right, EXE probably knows now that his opponent has been massing Goliaths down here, but guys, even with this many Goliaths, like, Orions are strong. And with these Dragon's Teeth here, like, I don't even think this many Goliaths can overcome this defense. Like, this is a very well-built defense. We'll have to see. I guess over time, he might be able to break this, but yeah, it seems unlikely that he's going to bust through that. But he's also sending reinforcements down, and I would be really surprised at this point if Race was not also on T3, or at least working towards T3, because staying on T2 for too long on a map like this can be very dangerous. But I don't see Races. I mean, if he's building T3, I don't see it. I don't see. And EXE has been on T3 for about several minutes at least, probably like 5 minutes now. So these Goliaths struggling to break through this Orion line as predicted. And some more Panther harassment here at the top right. EXE with another bombing run on the east side, and some good bomber micro, but again, just not really hitting any hard targets. Take up that advanced vehicle plant, that would be something. But doesn't even get that. So ultimately that bomber run, not too effective. Jesus. EXE just has Orions everywhere. Also building penetrators, as mentioned earlier. Penetrators are extremely powerful armed unit. It does require a lot of energy to fire. And they do require micro, but with EXE being on T3 now, he should theoretically have the advantage in these fights. The Chimera, let's see, what is... I don't know. I don't know if this is a new unit in 9.9 or if they've redesigned the Chimera. Because I don't remember this unit. I don't remember exactly what it does. So I guess we'll find out together. It looks to be like some kind of, if I had to guess, some kind of slow... oh yeah, it's this lightning tank. Okay, so it's like this massive lightning tank that it's meant to take a lot of punishment and deal a lot of punishment in close range. So its range isn't huge for a team, but they do obviously have a lot of health. And tons of lightning tactical nuke going down here. We'll take out a lot of units and bring these cans down to like 2/3 of their health. And this one Chimera in the front at about 1/3 HP, so it has survived all of that. But in the meantime, Race moving his own army down onto EXE's plateau. And while there are a lot of sentinels here, oh my god, dude, he's getting close to the repulsor. Firing those repulsor missiles. But those missiles will mostly fail to hit Race's army. He needed to send them more to the east. And Race, though, deciding to leave the plateau alone, maybe deciding that there's too much defense there. So he will move down instead to the south entrance of EXE's base. I guess for EXE it's the north entrance, but for Race it's the south entrance. And these penetrators now are going to start to be a problem. If you can keep them in range, they are going to have no problem taking out these Goliaths. And in the meantime, health. I don't even know if Race has enough TPS to shred these down. Oh no, here's the first. So the first Chimera is still alive. It's very low. It's at about 1/8 its health or so. But there's 3 Chimera now, and each Chimera is such a problem for Race to deal with. Bringing in Vamps now to get a little more DPS on them. These fighters, these missiles. A 4th Chimera in the back. And wow, yeah, these Chimera, I definitely think they were oh wow. Okay, yeah. So Race does end up tapping out because he's like, yeah, I can't handle these. I cannot handle these Chimera. It's too much. So, wow, guys, that was an awesome game. We got to see some new units and got to see the Chimera in action. I don't know if it's reworked or what, but it's definitely a lot stronger now. Like, we pretty much never saw those in 9.86, but in this game, you definitely got to see the power of it. It was like kind of insane, really tanky, and has so many lightning cannons on it that it felt like it was just killing anything. Just lightning death on wheels. Thor's hammer, you know, Majols, Mabols, whatever analogy you want to use. Very cool. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this cast, and let me know if the quality was better than before, because I did make some changes to try to increase the quality of this particular cast. I could actually increase the quality even further, so if you feel like you want the quality of the cast to be even higher than what it is now, I could do that. Problem is that, like, as I increase the quality of the cast, what inevitably happens is that the file size goes up, which means it just takes me longer to upload. If it's like a 50 gigabyte video, obviously that's going to take me like a day to upload to YouTube. But anyway, so guys, let me know if the quality's improved. Let me know if this is better than what you were seeing before. And I hope you enjoyed this cast. And yeah, just go ahead and comment. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you guys in the next one.